This lesson discusses using the F* family of commands. Topics include, what are some commands in the F* family? When would the F* family of commands be used? How can the F* family of commands be used in developing a website? Moving over to the first code example, some of the F* commands include on line 10, fopen, on line 15, feof, on line 17, fread, and on line 20, fclose. The F* family of commands are used to manipulate files. The set of commands came directly from C language and are quite fast and extremely reliable. They also give you extremely finite control over operating within the file, specifically how many bytes you want to read and how many bytes you want to write. Looking through this block of code, on line 6, we set a variable to a file name, gettysburg.txt. On line 10, we use the fopen command to create what is known as a file handle or file pointer. This produces a PHP resource type variable. In this case, it's assigned to $fh. Notice the two parameters. The first parameter is the name of the file. The second parameter is the mode. The mode can be a number of different possibilities. Of the various possible modes, the ones that are most frequently used include R for read, W for write, and A for append. In both cases, write and append, if the file does not exist, a new file is created. The difference between write and append is if the file does exist, write will overwrite the file with the new contents, whereas append will append information to the end of the file. If the fopen command fails, we can test it in an if statement. Failure to open the file will return a Boolean false. On line 15 is a classic example of using the while loop. The while loop is extremely useful if an unknown number of iterations need to occur. In this case, we're testing to see if the end of file has not yet been reached. FEOF stands for file end of file. We supply the file pointer or file handle as an argument. On line 17, we're reading 1024 bytes at a time and appending that to contents. On line 20, we close the file handle. Following that, we display the results. Let's first test to see what happens when the file name does not exist. So we save the code, move over to the browser, and have a look at the first example. So as you see, fopen will return a Boolean false, which generates a warning. It can then be tested in an if statement for proper resolution of the error condition. Moving back to the code, let's restore the proper file name and have a look at the result. As you can see, we now have the Gettysburg address displayed. Moving now to our second code example, the F series of commands can also be used to handle special types of files. In this example, the structure of the program is similar to the first example. However, notice on line 14, we're using the fgetcsv command. What this does is it reads a line of text from a CSV file. CSV stands for comma separated values. In this case, the file was generated from an Excel spreadsheet using save as and specifying CSV as the file type. In this example, we have cities, tax rates, and counties represented in a series of rows on a spreadsheet. The fgetcsv command will then return an array where each element of the array represents a column from a row in a spreadsheet. That is then added to an outer array, $rates, to produce a multi-dimensional array. We're then going to use a for each loop to scan through the rates, one city at a time. On line 26, we are again introducing the implode command, which will take an array and produce a string with closing and opening table data tags as separators between the elements. Moving over to the browser, let's have a look at the second code example. So as you can see, we have California, USA tax rates, city, tax, and county. Moving over to the third code example, another usage is for maintaining logs of various types. In this example, we're going to create a file called website_access.log. If the file already exists, we'll be simply appending to it. Notice on line 7 the use of the plus sign. The purpose of the plus sign is to allow bidirectional access to the file. Thus, if the mode is append, by adding the plus sign, we can later read from the file. If the mode is R, by adding a plus sign, we can later write to the file. Notice also on line 11, we're using a variable $_server, which is discussed in the web section, to obtain the user's IP address. On line 13, we're using the same superglobal to obtain information on the user's browser. On line 16, we're using the date command to produce a 4-digit year, 2-digit month, 2-digit day, 24-hour hour, minutes, and seconds. In other words, a date timestamp. On line 19, we're using a variation of the printf family, which prints to a file handle. This is fprintf. The only difference between fprintf and printf is that you indicate the file handle as the first argument. We then rewind the pointer and introduce yet another command, fpassthrough, which reads the contents of the file and outputs immediately. Finally, on line 32, we're showing you PHP info to get information about the $_server superglobal. Let's move now to the browser and have a look at this example. So here's our log file. Here's the PHP info screen. As you can see, here's the user agent and the remote address, which in this case is just simply an IP6 localhost address, ::1. Now, if we refresh the screen, you notice we are now adding to the log file. In review, what are some commands in the F* family? Commands include fopen, fread, fwrite, fgetcsv, feof, and fclose. When would the F* family of commands be used? When handling large files or binary files, or when you need precise control over the position of the file pointer. How can the F* family of commands be used in developing a website? The F* commands are used for parsing special files, such as CSV files. You could also do things like inspecting user-uploaded files. This concludes our discussion of using the F* family.